Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and I hope you're all doing well on this Wednesday afternoon. If you are tuning in live here on Behance, let me know in the chat where you are and who you are and where you're tuning in from. That's the one. We've got Afrosia and Brett and Sarah and Sam, Anita, Viviana, Golden Rose, Kazi, great to see all of my fellow Canadians in the chat as well. Yesterday I felt like it was all Canadians. Mitchell from Wales, we've got someone from the UK, great to see you. Aubrey, Andres, great to see all of you. All right, so day number 7 of the XD Daily Creative Challenge is upon us. If you're new to this or you're just diving into things this week, head on over to behance.net/challenge/XD. You're going to find all the information about the Daily Creative Challenge. We also have challenges for Photoshop and Illustrator as well. So go ahead and hit that big blue register button at the top if you haven't already, so you get notified when new challenges are available. Heather from Boston and Space Kitten, that's a great username. Amanda from Toronto, another Canadian. Katie from New York, Rebecca from Seattle, Andres from Germany, Aubrey from Boston, we've got St. Louis, Texas. Awesome. All right, so every single day you're gonna receive a challenge, Monday to Friday, except the first Monday. You can join us in our Discord community chat. Again, we have like 60,000 designers in there. It's a wonderful community. Almost 2,000 people online right now. You can get information about the daily challenges, ask questions, share tips and tricks, chat with fellow designers, maybe collab with some of them. But more importantly, under the feedback section, you can hop into the challenge channel and you'll be able to, right over here, and you'll be able to submit your work, get some feedback, and maybe give some feedback if you feel comfortable. It's a wonderful community over on Discord. You can also watch us live. I'm live 2 o'clock Pacific time, Monday to Friday. And then you can share your work, like I mentioned, on Discord or on Behance using the keyword XD Daily Challenge. Got some more people coming in. We've got Ruth and Leon from Germany, Afroja from Bangladesh, Abir from Egypt. This is awesome. People from all over the world. All right, so very quick recap. Last week we started off this process with a profile screen, and if you missed it, we have been designing, all 9 challenges have been mobile specific, and the next set of challenges that I'm gonna be running in March are gonna be all web specific. So I know a lot of you have been asking for more web challenges. 9 of them are coming very soon. Then we moved on to scroll groups using creating a scroll card using scroll groups. There we go, words are hard today. Then we created a friends feed using repeat grids, an emoji picker using nested components. We explored how 3D transforms can help you design out a stories experience. That was a lot of fun. Messages using stacks and padding yesterday. And today we're gonna be building out our navigation bar for this mobile app. And if you want, like I mentioned yesterday, if you want a more condensed version of this challenge, youtube.com/Howard Pinsky. I do have a video that I uploaded just a few hours ago on exactly what you're going to be seeing today. All right, so let's hop over to Adobe XD and we are going to get going. So here is the template for today. And Hatisha is asking for more 3D tutorials. Definitely. So I have some on my YouTube channel, and also the next set of challenges will likely have some 3D transforms in it as well. All right, so here is the template for today. Again, the prompt is to design and prototype a navigation bar across multiple screens using component states. And the cool thing about this challenge is you're gonna see how to build this out and also, use nested components so that you can update individual icons or the entire navigation bar, and it'll just propagate to all the other ones. All right. So someone was asking, Ruth was asking, how do peeps upload their work onto Discord from XD, what looks like an MP4? So if you're running XD on the Mac, you can launch a prototype, and then right here at the top right-hand corner, you can record the prototype from the Mac. Now, because of limitations on Windows, we can't offer that. So you can use Game Bar, which is built into Windows. It's Windows G, and you'll be able to record your screen. All right, so here's some inspiration of this navigation bar. And we are going to begin over here. Now, since we are this is going to be used on some of the screens that we have designed over the last week and a half. I am going to actually use some of the screens that we've been using. I'm going to pull them on over here. Now, of course, if you have different screens or if you have no screens, you can absolutely still follow along. But I just feel, you know what, I got the screens, I'm going to use them. So here we go. What we're going to do first is we're going to draw out the container for this particular navigation bar. So I'm going to grab the good old rectangle tool and draw one out. Now this particular one, it's going to be a little bit stylistic, a little bit different. So it's not going to go directly to the edges of our display. Many times for a navigation bar, you'll see something like this, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I'm just going to have a little bit of fun with this particular navigation bar. So I'm going to leave a little bit of room on the sides, about 9, let's go for 8 pixels on the side. There we go, that looks pretty good. And about the same on the bottom. Perfect. Now I'm also going to round out the corners a little bit. I'm going to drag this handle on the inside inwards. Maybe a little bit, a lot, I don't know, we'll see. We can always change it. That's the beauty of components, right? All right, so we have our shape looking pretty good. And now what we want to do is add a background blur, because of course we want to add a background blur. There's a lot of background blurs on this design, maybe too much. I don't know, let me know in the chat if you think there's too much background blur. I'm gonna turn on background blur at the bottom right-hand corner of the properties inspector. And the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna crank up the blur, just like that. Next, I'm gonna drop the brightness to around 0. And it looks okay, but you know, there's a little bit too much blur. We want it nice and subtle. So what I'm gonna do, because we're going for a dark style, I'm gonna change the fill to a pure black. Now, you're noticing nothing's really happening, right? And that's because the effect opacity is at 0. So I'm gonna just bump that up a little bit to bring some of that color, in this case black, back in. And if you want to, you can always experiment and add a little bit of color, maybe a little bit of blue in there, possibly. Completely up to you. And I do want a little bit of a border to help, you know, separate this navigation bar from the background. So I'm gonna grab the border, set it to white, and then drop the opacity. And the reason I'm doing that is so that it can still bring in some of the color from that background blur, while at the same time acting as a border, right? Let's try 10%. All right, that could work. We might want to change it a little bit later on, but we're gonna see how things go. All right, now on the inside, we obviously want some icons. Now, what I want to do, I'm gonna bring this up just a little bit, because I will remind you that if you're designing for an iPhone, for example, right here at the bottom, there is that home indicator. You don't want anything down there because you can't interact with it, and it just looks ugly. So just keep in mind that there's a little bit of a home indicator down the bottom. So icons, what I want to do and what I like to do, because all icons are sometimes different widths, sometimes different heights, is create hotspots. So I'm gonna grab a rectangle and draw one out somewhere around 40 pixels. And that will ensure that if you're using line-based icons, which we might, that they won't be missed. So you have this nice hotspot that users can tap on and they won't miss it. So I'm gonna pop it somewhere right about here. Doesn't matter exactly where it is right now. We will get to organizing in just a moment. I'm gonna reduce the opacity just so I can see it, but also at the same time, it's not too distracting. Eventually, we're gonna just drop the opacity completely. So the first icon we're gonna be using is a home icon. Now, if I hop down to my plugins panel at the bottom, I do have the icons for design plugin installed. And of course I could type out home and pick any of these wonderful icons from open source libraries. Or if you do have, whoops. Oh no, I just quit something. I don't know what, okay. I quit Safari, so I cannot see all of your chat. Give me 1 second. I believe my stream is still going, but I quit Safari. Give me a second. All right, here we go. We're back. Back to XD. Stream should still be going. Yep, there is me. Okay, we're good. All right, so of course you can use a plugin, or you can use an icon library and icon manager. I do have Nucleo installed. This is actually beta, the beta of version 3, which is wonderful. So I can go ahead and type out, let's say home, and I've got all these wonderful icons. Some of them are line-based, some of them are stroke-based or border-based. I'm gonna copy and then paste into Adobe XD. And there we go. So it's about 22 pixels, and if I take a look at the preview, it's a pretty good size, right? And I still have that hotspot in the background, which eventually I'm going to be hiding just like that, right? So completely up to you where you get your icons from. Clever is saying, quick, let's talk about, oops, I am back, I see you. All right, now what we want to do is once we have one of our icons in place, is we want to select both of these elements. So we have our icon, and also in the layers panel, we have that hotspot, which I'm going to name hotspot. And there's various names for this particular type of element. I'm going to select both of them, and we want to turn this into a single component. So I'm going to press the plus button beside component within the properties inspector. You can also do that within your assets as well, right over here. Plus, and we now have our home icon, which I can name home. Let me delete all these ones. We don't need those. Delete, just taking up space. Now, for each of these icons, we want basically a line-based icon and also a solid icon, so that depending on if you're on the screen or not, you'll be able to activate it, right? Or you'll be able to just switch between the two. So within the properties inspector, one more time, I'm gonna hit the plus button, new state, and I'll just call this active. And once I have that in place, I can dive in here. I can go back to Nucleo, grab a solid icon, and paste. And I can either delete the current icon or hide it, completely up to you. And now we have our default state and our active state, right? So we're gonna do the exact same thing for all of our other icons. I'm gonna copy the hotspot hint, paste it outside. I'm just gonna actually have 1, 2, 3, and 4, just to make my life a little bit easier. And now what we want to do, because we have various screens, we have a friends list, which could be like achievements or challenges. We have our profile, and we also have this messages. So we're gonna add a bunch of those icons. So I'm gonna hop back over to Nucleo. And by the way, the chat is all the way over there now. It kind of flipped on me. So if I can't see your message, I do apologize. And someone's asking about organization of components and assets. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes to help drive that even further. So stay tuned for that. All right, so next one we might want is a profile, which might be user. All right, so here's a line-based icon of that particular, whoops, there we go. Actually, it looks like a fill-based icon. Let's go for the line-based icon, which is right here. Perfect. And then there is a solid version of this right here. All right. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna pop this right here, just like we did with the home icon. Select both, component, don't need to see this. And then we're gonna press the plus button, new state, and this is gonna be called active. The process is exactly the same for all of these icons. We're gonna paste this one right here. Delete that, and we have our default state and our active state. Wonderful. Let's move on to messages. Let's see, this one looks pretty good. This one also looks pretty good. All right, pop that in place. Select both, new component, new state, active. As you get the hang of this, it's gonna move so quickly. Here we go, delete, and we have active and default, right? And then one more, we're going to have our, what was it? Oh yeah, trophy. Trophy. This is gonna be challenges or whatever you might wanna call it. Copy, paste. Nope, wrong one. There we go. Pop that in there, reduce, select, component, new state, active. And you're gonna see why I'm doing all of this in just a moment. And copy and paste. All right, so we have all four of our icons complete. We have our default state and we have, oops, I deleted the wrong thing, I think. We almost have all of our icons in place. Now we have all of our icons. So we have our default state and our active state for all of these. And now we wanna start lining some of these up. Now, what I'm also thinking is, in the center of this particular navigation bar, there might be a large button so you can add content, right? So I'm gonna grab an ellipse, drag one out. It's gonna be quite a bit larger than these other icons. I'm gonna position this, let's say about 24 pixels from the left. and 24 pixels from the right. Perfect. Now we're going to get to styling this icon in just a moment, but the reason I added this is so that we can line everything up really nicely. What I can do here is I can select all of these icons, which I did a terrible job at naming, and I'm going to first align them in the center. And then with this other icon, this big button selected, I can distribute them horizontally, just like that, right? And again, there's that home indicator down at the bottom, so you want to leave a little bit of room down there, just so you're not, you don't have a bad user experience. It makes it a little bit thinner, just like that. Maybe pull these down a touch more. There we go. Let me check chat all the way over here. Is that your dog in the back? It's not my dog, it's our neighbor's dog. Usually it's very quiet, but today he's having a bad day. All right, so we have our icons looking pretty decent. And what I want to do now is very quickly style this button here. And I'm going to use a very simple linear gradient, something like this. I'm going to add a slight border on the inside, bump it up, and then drop that opacity just to give it a little bit of a bevel, right? And then since this will allow us to add new content, I'm going to grab a line, drag one out, increase it in size or round out the caps. And then I can duplicate it and then rotate it 90 degrees. Whoops. Rotate it 90 degrees. There we go. We've got our add button. All right, let me actually go ahead and just name these because it's going to drive me crazy. Trophy, and we have messages and user, and then we have our home. All right, so now what we want to do, actually, I want to make sure that these are pure white. Looks like they're slightly off. There we go. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to start wiring up each of these individual components. So to do that, we're going to hop into prototype mode right here at the top. And for each one, we're going to select the individual component. We're going to click on the handle, and we're going to set up a tap trigger within the properties inspector. And we're going to use a simple transition. So I'm going to select the destination, which is our active state. And we want a simple transition because there's nothing to animate and no animation. Now, of course, if you are using some sort of like filling up animation or maybe a moving dot or something like that, then absolutely, you can totally use auto animate. But this is just going to transition one to one, right? So if I press play, I can click and it's going to transition. We want to make sure to do the exact same thing for our active state as well, choosing our default state. Now I can go through and just do the exact same thing. Active, click, default. And then click, active, and default. And then finally, this one over here, active and default. Perfect. Okay. So we now have all of our icons wired up. Again, you can press play and click on them. Now, of course, you don't want necessarily this exact thing to happen, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to place all of this into a larger component. All these icons are going to be nested within it. So here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to make sure to name this container. We're going to make sure that we have our container selected and also all the icons, including this add button. And then we're going to create a new component in our assets, right down here, press the plus, and I'm going to call this navigation. All right. So now what we can do, now that we have this larger component created, we're going to go through and create the various states for this navigation bar. So back in prototype mode, we do have our navigation bar selected as our component. We're going to dive in here to select these individual icons. And in addition to the tap trigger that we have set up, we can drag a new wire to a different artboard. So this is the profile, so I'm not going to do that one just yet. But for the home, we can drag it over to this artboard over here. And we want a tap trigger. We already have a tap trigger, don't we? Oh yes. So what we want to do in this case, because we already have a tap trigger, we don't want to do that. We want to pop this into a group so we can actually kind of fake it and we can have two of them. So we're going to pop this in, we're going to pop this into a group. There we go. call this home, and then drag this wire over to this artboard, right? And we can do a simple transition. We don't need any animation. We're gonna do the same thing here, pop it into a group, messages, drag this over. I believe we have one over here. Perfect. Group, trophy, drag that over. Now this one here, we're on that screen, so we can't drag it to this screen, right? So what I'm gonna do just for now is I'm gonna move this navigation bar outside of this screen. That way I can hop into prototype mode and do the exact same thing. And I'm gonna call this user and drag this over, right? Perfect. All right, so we have all this ready to go. And there were a few ways, by the way, there are a few ways to go about this. So for the individual components, we could have dove into this component and set up the trigger there and then use the overall component to drag to another artboard. But I kind of mixed it up a little bit. Sorry. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna pop this back over on this artboard here. And now because we have our main component, we can also drag out instances. We can either do that in the assets panel, we can just drag out another navigation bar, or we can copy this one, go to all these screens, and then paste. Now, you're taking a look at this messages screen, right? And we have a navigation bar on top of this action bar at the bottom. Things look a little bit strange, and that's kind of where user experience really comes into play. Do we want that? Do you want a navigation bar on the screen, or do you want to move this action bar up a little bit? Completely up to you. I think for now, we probably don't want the navigation bar, but just to kind of show you how this works, I'm going to just move this up. All right, and on each of these, what we can do is we can go through. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Oh no, I messed it up. Okay, that's okay. You can press play. Yeah, I messed all of this up. Let me go back very quickly. I messed all of it up. What did I do? So what we want to do, we want to create new states on these navigation bars for each individual one. So this is home. We can dive in here to this component, set it to active, right? And then new state, messages. I apologize for this. I completely messed this up. There we go. And then dive in here. Nope, we want to make sure to name this achievements, active, and then we want to go to our user profile. Whoops, what am I doing? I am just all over the place today. We're going to dive in here, and we are going to set this to active. So now we have our default state, our home, and you're noticing as I'm switching between all of these particular states that everything is updating as almost it should. It's one of those days, isn't it? Right? There we go. Okay. So now what I did not want to do, and I completely messed this up. Let's go ahead and just edit the main component of these particular icons. Is I do not want, let's see if I can very quickly go through this. I do not want these particular interactions, so I'm going to delete them. And then within this, I can start going through and wiring this up. Okay, let's see if that works. Okay, I think we're on track. And thankfully I have that video on YouTube which explains all of it. So if I'm not making sense right now, which I'm probably not, definitely go to YouTube and watch that video. It makes a lot more sense. It does feel like, oh, I have 2 of them on here. That's I don't want that. It definitely feels like a Monday, doesn't it? All right, so this one is our home. This one is our achievements. This one is our messages, and we have user. So now if all goes well, nothing goes well today. Anyways, go watch the video. And yeah, go watch the video on YouTube and just kind of follow this process, but wire things up correctly, unlike what I did today. I don't know exactly what I did wrong, but you know what? Things happen, right? That's life. Go watch the video. I'm gonna, just to help all of you out, because I apologize for all of this, I'm gonna copy this link and pop it in there. It does feel like a Monday, but go watch that video. Ignore everything that I just said. Hopefully some of you can figure out kind of where I was getting at, but I messed up one of the steps and it just ruined everything. I apologize, but a big thank you to everyone who has joined today. I will be back tomorrow with day number 8 of the XD Daily Creative Challenge. Kyle T. Webster is coming up in just a few moments. Stick around for that. I will see you all tomorrow.